Good evening, Yonkers. Happy Friday. Happy rainy Friday. It's Freddie Vasquez. This is Basement Politics Unfiltered. Tonight, Nick Speranza joins me on Basement Politics. Nick is a candidate for city court judge. Let's learn about Nick.
Freddie wins. Fatality. Freddie wins.
Good evening, folks. Freddie Vasquez, Basement Politics. What a day. Today was in the city of Yonkers. But fortunately, I'm still able to go on live with Nick Speranza, candidate for city court judge, attorney here in the city of Yonkers in Westchester County. Help me welcome Nick to the show.
What is up, Fred? How are you?
I'm doing great, Nick. How's everything, buddy? How you been?
Great. It's an honor to be here, man. How are you?
Good. You just went blank. Think we lost your camera.
Okay.
I can still hear you, though. Everything's good, folks. I made it out of this storm alive. I don't know if you had to deal with any issues here, but I got some water in my basement. Have like $3,000 worth of equipment here. Fortunately, none of it was wet. I do keep it elevated. It was a crazy day in Yonkers, man. Right?
Like the end of the world out there today, huh?
Well, yeah, I don't want to go into that. We can have a whole podcast about that. But anyway, Nick, thank you for joining me. I appreciate you being here. I'm seeing the signs all over now, everywhere throughout Yonkers. My wife even pointed out, she goes, "Oh, that's Nick Speranza, right?" I said, "Yes." I told her we'd be having you join me on the show today. Tell us about it. Why are you running for city court judge? Tell us a little bit about yourself, for those of you who may not know me or know you, I should say.
Hey, it's an honor to be here. About 30 seconds before I came on, I was signing on to Facebook to meet you, and I just saw an ad that today is National Coffee Day. So, happy coffee to everyone. No, seriously, we've been meaning to do this for a long time. It's great being here. This
Absolutely.
is probably the most chill, laid-back podcast or interview that I'll have in this whole election cycle. But no, I want to reach out to as many people as I possibly can. Get to know me. My name is Nick Speranza. I'm running for city court judge, and this is something that I've wanted to do for quite a while now. I'm 43 years old. I've always planned on doing this in my 40s. Truth be told, I didn't anticipate this happening until I was probably in my late 40s, early 50s, but some people led the way for me, so to speak. Three of my partners now, all of whom are younger than me, took this journey, and they all made it. And when I say three of my partners, I mean three of my partners from the Legal Aid Society of Westchester County. Freddie, I can't hear you. Can you?
Yeah, I want to get into that. I was going to mention that you work for Legal Aid, right? You're an attorney with Legal Aid. If you're not familiar with Legal Aid, they're an agency that provides legal services, attorneys for those who are unable to pay for attorney services. So you're an activist in a way, right? You're like an activist attorney.
I've been doing this right out of law school. I graduated law school. I think I was 2003 or 2004. I passed the bar, graduated, did what I had to do, and this was my first job out of law school. And I've been there ever since, and I don't regret it for a second. I love my job. And truth be told, if I don't win this election, I made a vow to my boss that there's only two ways that I'm leaving my office, either as a judge or in a body bag, because I will stay there because I love what I do. How many people can say that? It's a great office. For those of you who don't know who we are, I mean, sometimes public defenders and, on TV get a bad rap. I mean, I see movies all the time when people have read their Miranda rights and they say, the city will provide you an attorney, people, it's a bad stigma. Like, it's an emergency room. Like, people feel they're not getting the best representation.
Right.
Let me just give a quick plug to my office and let them know that nothing can be further than the truth. I've been there for almost 20 years, and I say this as a joke all the time. If I was accused of murder tomorrow, I would want one of the attorneys in my office representing me over any of the high-powered, fancy suit attorneys that you see coming in from the city. We're great at what we do. We try felony cases all day. And now we're reaching out to misdemeanors as well. We pick up misdemeanor cases. But for the tenure of my career, we only dealt with the hard-hitting cases. And I tell people this all the time. When you see me, it's not a good thing. When you see me in relation to my job, when you meet me in court, it means something bad happened and you're being accused of something very serious. So, hopefully a lot of people. What are you going to say? You look like you can say something.
No, well, I'm going to just say, Ada Medina, who's currently a city court judge, correct, was also over at Legal Aid before becoming a city court judge. And let's hope that you make it out of there as a judge and not in a body bag. All right, Nick? I prefer to see that. I'm sure everyone else will.
No, let's talk about Ada for a second.
But yeah, no, I just wanted to mention that she also worked, and you worked with her, and she's currently
not just Ada was my direct supervisor in Yonkers. Let me explain to you the way my office works. My office encompasses all of Westchester County, right? There are 5 cities in Westchester County, 5 major city courts: Mount Vernon, Yonkers, New Rochelle, Peekskill, White Plains, and Rye. 6 city courts. The rest of them are town and local courts. Okay, so there were over 50 courts in this county that my office represents. Right, but it's basically, we're broken up into 6 regions, basically encompassing each city court. So for my entire career, I've worked out of Yonkers. That's been my home away from home since I was 25 years old, and Ada's been my supervisor for the majority of that time. Couldn't ask for a more knowledgeable attorney. No one was happier than me to see her become a judge 2 years ago. And the truth of the matter is, this as well as anybody, I was out there campaigning before that cycle ever happened, and I anticipated challenging, if I wasn't nominated myself, whichever judge was appointed, and I had every intention of doing that. But as fate should have it, Ada was picked, and she's the one person in the world who I would have never challenged to anything. She was like a sister to me my whole career. So I dropped out of that election, but here I am now in the very next one, just as I said I would be. And as we were stating earlier, Yonkers City Court, how many of the judges there? I think it's 4 or 5 out of the 7 now that are all out of my office, out of Legal Aid. Even Judge Duran, he's out of my office. Karen Best, the Honorable Karen Best, is out of my office. Vera Shako is out of my office. Now Ada Medina. And so right there, that's 4 of the 7 judges.
I remember, when, was it last year or the year before, when you were interested in running for city court judge at that time, and then Ada Medina was appointed, and you said a lot of good things about her, and, you really didn't want to run up against her because of your relationship and stuff. And so you pulled away and you went into supporting Ada for city court judge, and she did win. I got guys, I want to ask some questions here. These may be helpful. How do you plan on helping the wrongfully convicted? Do you do 440.10 motions? Will you fight against the district attorney for wrongful doing?
Well, you mean now or as a judge? When a person is wrongfully convicted of something, it's not, first and foremost, I really can't get into the legality of what I'm going to do. I wish I could. I wish I can answer that question 100% right now. But unfortunately, judges, where, as you know, Freddie, a lot of people don't, but that as judicial candidates, we're very, very monitored in what we say and what we answer. And it's unfortunate, because I would love, when people ask me questions, I would love to say, let's get a cup of coffee and we'll talk about this for a half hour, how I really feel about it and what I'm going to do. But unfortunately, I can't do that, and we're strictly governed. But the wrongfully accused, that it happens, it's the saddest thing in the world. And then bottom line is, if people are doing their job in the beginning, be it the defense attorneys, as I said before, let me plug my office one more time. 4 of the 7 judges come from my office. That right there should tell you something about my office. As a defense attorney, I will get into that a little bit. We do not leave any stone unturned. I can vouch for the attorneys in my office, what we do. The amount of work that we put into one case, the man hours, making sure that people aren't wrongfully convicted. I don't want to pat myself personally on the back now, but I am a trial attorney. I say this all the time to people. If you watch like the movie My Cousin Vinny, that's what my family calls me, My Cousin Nicky. That's what I do growing up. I
or
try Matlock too, to an extent. It is. I was a Matlock guy too. I mean, that's our generation. You have to be above 40 to even know what that term means. But yeah, I was a Matlock guy, and that's pretty much what I do for a living. And you know what's funny? It's funny you say that. I grew up on Matlock with my grandfather, but I don't watch legal movies anymore. Like a lot of my family members watch Law and Order and shows like that. And that's literally what we do all day. And it really is that exciting. It blows your mind. Like it's right out of a movie what we say and what we do. So what I'm trying to getting back to the question, if the legal system works right, as it should, they're really and I've been saying this since day one, wrongfully convicted, that's a term that shouldn't exist. But it does, unfortunately. And nothing is perfect. People make mistakes every day. That's why we're human.
Well, I think that's great that you have judges that come from legal aid who help those who have been wrongfully accused and who can't finance their own legal defense. That to me seems more of
Can I?
you're a humble person, right? A little more humility, not some high price fancy attorney, right?
Well,
That's not going to understand maybe the people that come before them.
what's funny is when somebody said to me the other day, actually, my best friend in the world who lives in Baltimore now says, well, what do people think of you that, you came out of nowhere and you want to be a judge now? We didn't come out of nowhere. I mean, to be even in the running for a judge in the state of New York, in a city court, I believe you have to be an attorney for 5 years, which to me is just crazy because you got people probably running around now in their early 30s that want to be a judge. And I'm not attacking anybody's abilities or IQ or anything like that, but in my humble opinion,
By experience, I think. Yeah.
to even consider doing this job, you really have to be a lawyer for at least 15, 20 years and a real lawyer, like not just the type of attorney that handles DWIs and speeding tickets, like a hard hitting lawyer that's either no, don't forget, I
Or
just do
just
criminal.
paperwork.
Yeah, you have to, yeah, exactly. Just pencil pushing. You have to know that courtroom like the back of your hand. So when people ask me, for example, like what makes you think you deserve to be a judge and sit in that room, it's kind of, I guess it's arrogance on my part to say, I've been in that courtroom for the past 20 years. I know every nuance, every law, you really
It's
have to
like a
bring that to the table. Come on,
it's like
man.
a natural progression, for you. It's a truly natural progression. And why have you stayed? Is it that you enjoy, the people you get to meet, I guess, and get to defend? Why stay at legal aid as opposed to maybe joining a prestigious law firm or even going out and starting your own law firm, right?
First and foremost, anybody who knows me knows that I'm not in this for the money. I have a family. My wife is a stay-at-home mom, and I have two wonderful kids, and we get by. We do. As long as we have a roof, I always have an expression that I don't need to drive a Mercedes. I don't need to take a vacation every year to an island. I'm happy with what I have,
Yeah.
and I like what I do. And people ask me that all the time. And there's two things that bother me. When people say to me, "Oh, you still live in Yonkers?" Oh, why didn't you leave yet? That drives me crazy. Why would I leave? Yonkers is my home. I'll most likely die here. I was born here. I'll most likely die here. Why would I leave? You say that like I should leave. And another thing that drives me crazy is when people say to me, "Well, I can't believe you're still, doing public defense work." Why not? I mean, my brother's DPW. People don't walk up to him and say, "I can't believe you're still with DPW," or my brother-in-law is an accountant. I don't see people say to him, "Oh, you're still an accountant." I love what I do. And
Right.
I really feel, I got to be honest with you. I'll get into what I do a little bit more in a second, but I really feel like I make a difference. Uh, Go ahead. You were going to say something.
No, no, no. I was just gonna say that,
What I do now, here's what I,
if you love what you
you
do, that's huge. That's worth more than money at times, right? People can
let
make a
me,
lot of money, be miserable at work.
100%. If you love what you do, it's not work. What I do right now is my office has a program. The state has a program that my office is funded for. It's called CAFA, means Counsel at First Appearance. What that basically means is that for all these years, up until recently, if a rich person gets arrested in the middle of the night, the first thing they say is, "I got to call my lawyer up and try to get out so I don't have to spend the night in jail," right? Because the courts aren't open past 9 o'clock at night. They call the lawyer up. The lawyer comes and does. What about the poor people that get arrested? And a lot of them are innocent. And whatever the reason is, we're not going to, everyone's innocent or proven guilty. But when somebody gets arrested just because we're not getting the bail reform here now, people at all. What we're
I
getting
was
into
going to
is
say they have bail
we're
reform.
not. We're not. Not yet. It's not about bail reform. What it's about is when people get arrested at 11 o'clock at night, just because they don't have a paid attorney, they still deserve to have an attorney present. And people think because I'm a public offender, I'm a defense attorney, that I think that everybody's innocent. I never said that. We're part of a system here. Somebody deserves to have an attorney next to them when they're arrested, whether they're a millionaire or whether they're homeless. So my job, what I do is, I stated earlier how there are 50 different courts in this county. My job now is 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. If somebody gets arrested, I make myself or a member of my team physically present within 1 hour, anywhere in Westchester, to be next to that person, to make sure that they have an attorney with them when they're arraigned, you know? And a lot of these people go on to hire private attorneys, but at the time when they're arrested, that's probably their darkest hour and they're sitting in a jail cell. And a lot of them, if they have an attorney present, will get out that night as opposed to staying the next morning. And, like I said, I really don't want to get into what?
No, I was gonna say the one time I was arrested one time for trespassing, years ago. I was in my 20s. I was like
Okay.
28 years old. And I always, prided myself on not getting arrested, but I don't know, I was coming out of a building where my father actually lived in, and it was a red zone. And since I didn't live there, I couldn't verify that my dad lived there because he wasn't home. They arrested me and they kept me in jail for I had to go to court the next day and everything, right? The first one and only time I was at the city jail, was still open, and I had a public defender come up to me and call my name out as I
Was
was
it
sitting
me?
in the.
It
No,
wasn't me,
no,
was
no, it
it?
wasn't you. It was an older
Jeez, I
guy.
know.
It was an older gentleman.
Okay.
He had white hair, but he called my name and I go up to him, in that holding cell behind the court and everything, or behind it, whatever. And he goes, what happened? What's going on? I said, I don't know. I just came out the building. I was going to see if my dad was home. He literally lived across the street from me at the time. It was on Riverdale Avenue. And I said, he wasn't home. My dad didn't always have a cell phone. He wasn't home. And I come out the building and I get arrested by some undercover guys. They asked me what I was doing there. I told them. They didn't want to believe me. They said they're going to give me one more chance to tell them the truth, or they're going to take me to jail. So I said, well, what do you want me to tell you? That I was committing a crime and then you'll let me go? I mean, I don't know. That is the truth. It's. And so they ended up taking me to jail. They didn't find anything in my car. They didn't find anything, just trespassing, criminal trespassing at that, right?
What?
And so I went to see, I guess, the lieutenant at the jail, and he says, I went to try to explain to him. I thought that was where I explained to him what's going on, so maybe I can get up out of here. And he goes, no, you're not going to talk. I'm doing all the talking. He goes, have you ever, wanted to kill yourself? Have you ever attempted to kill yourself? And I'm just like, no. But then I said, oh, wait a minute. Are they going to keep me? Is this why they're asking these questions? So they did. But the guy got me out because, he goes, I explained that to him. He goes, oh, this is Yonkers. He goes, unfortunately, that happens when Yonkers. That's what he said. He goes, that's Yonkers for you. They just arrest people, and red zones, and that gives them like an automatic, reason to arrest you or whatever. And, I went in front of the judge. He said, all right, you're released as long as you don't get in trouble in 6 months, it'll go away. And I said, no problem. I haven't been in trouble for 28 years. It's the first time I can do 6 months. So, but I had a public defender at that time. So, and he helped me out. I mean, I guess,
I mean, hey, we're all part of the system here, and we're all just trying to get the job done. And I tell my clients this all the time. Even the DA, for the most part, people get arrested. Nobody's the devil. Nobody's trying. I mean, that's what attorneys are for.
tenant court. Yeah, I think so. In landlord tenant court, but that's a whole nother thing.
Well,
Let's talk
what's funny?
about
That's
bail
what I hear.
reform, right? Let's
Yeah.
say Nick Speranza is elected, right? He becomes the next city court judge. How do you feel about bail reform? What's your opinion? What do you think about that? A lot of people have been upset with bail
As I
reform.
said before, this is the first question I get asked, and I feel so bad that I really can't get into it and state what my personal opinion as a human being, as a resident of Yonkers, as a father, is bail reform, because everybody has an opinion, right? Including myself. As a judicial candidate, I really can't get into how I feel. What I can say is this.
How do you give information of how you feel on things so people can vote for you?
Here's what I will say. As a public defender, people automatically think that, like, oh, when I meet people on the street and tell them that, like, oh, you're pro-crime. I'm not pro-crime. Nobody's pro-crime, okay? Nobody wants to see crimes reoccur. What's going on, there's no easy answer. I'm going to be honest with you. With bail reform, there is no easy answer, because I understand from both sides of the fence, both arguments. Like, people that don't have money, why should they spend time in jail? Bail is to ensure that somebody comes back to court. Okay, and that's the foremost reason for having bail. So that argument, bail reform argument was started, and basically people felt, just because you don't have the money that other people have, why should you, spend more time in jail when, a millionaire from Rye may do a crime that's 10 times worse than yours, but just because daddy bails him out, he can get back on the street tomorrow. And that's where it started from. But every time
Well,
something
really quick
starts,
on that,
I
the
do it.
thing is this:
Yeah.
they say that bail reform gave judges more discretion, right? But the
Mhm.
reality is that it actually limited them and restricted them, and it
Yeah,
kind of
well,
gave them a guideline of what to go by, right? And so the problem, I think, is not create bail reform, but look into judges and prosecutors who may not be,
well,
honest with
here's
what they're doing, right? Because they can determine if you don't need bail reform for a judge to say, hey, I'm going to release you without a bail, right? The judge can make that
here's what I
decision on
think.
its own.
Any interview any judicial candidate goes on, including this one, people will say, "Well, what's going to make you a good judge?" And every judge is going to say the same thing. And they're going to say, "I'm going to treat everybody fair and equitably. I'm not a racist. I'm not going to treat people different in front of me based on their creed, hairstyle, clothes, whatever, how much money's in the bank account. Everybody's going to be treated equal." That's the answer you're going to get from every judicial candidate, including myself, right? And I understand that people, if I was sitting there and somebody was giving that speech, I would roll my eyes and I would say, "Okay, that's what everybody says. What makes you different?" What makes me different? There are a lot of things that I feel make me different, but I'll start with this. That's my speech, as well as everybody else's. You got to look at it this way. Anybody that's here, anybody, including 3 people this year that are in the Yonkers election, we know what we're doing. We've been doing this for a long time. So
Well,
what step?
let's start there. Who are the people you're running against, really
I don't
quick?
like to say my opponents because I really have no
Oh,
opponent. I'm
I
not
don't.
running against. But the two incumbent judges that are there right now are Arthur Doran III, Jr., and Karen Beltran are on the bench right
Okay.
now. So I'm going to be the one that's, the only one that's not a judge right now that's running in this race. But I'm not going to say what makes me different, what makes me better, what makes me me. Here's what makes me me. Anybody who knows me knows that I'm not, first and foremost, I'm asking people to vote for me because even though I'll give the same speech that everybody else will give, I'm going to be fair, I'm going to be equitable, whatever. You got to take a leap of faith sometimes in life. When a
But
girl
why
meets the
should they
guy.
take that leap of faith, right?
Well,
Why
here's
should,
well,
and I'm not trying to, I'm just
let
playing
me
devil's
well,
advocate, Nick, right?
well, let me
Why
get,
should
let's
they
get
say,
into it
hey, you
right
know
now.
what? We don't want Karen Beltran.
When a
We want
girl
Nick now.
when my wife met me, and I said to her, my wife was a very, very pretty girl. She could have got any guy she wanted. What made her go on a date with me? Everybody's going to say the same thing. No one's going to say to a girl, "I'm going to treat you bad. I'm going to cheat on you and be horrible." You got to take a leap of faith
Well,
sometimes and give
maybe you
somebody
were
a
more
chance.
handsome than a lot of the other guys, or maybe you were
Maybe
funnier.
I like
My
to think
wife
so.
loves my humor. She loves that I
But the point,
protect her.
but here's, let me, to an extent, you got to get that person to go on a first date with you, don't you? They gotta take somewhat of a leap of faith to say, "I'm gonna give this person a chance." And it's the same thing the voters have
Right,
with me
right. But
now.
it's based on
What
certain,
Okay, well, here's
characteristics
what I'm
within
gonna
that
base it on.
person, right?
Anybody who's listening to this show tonight, here's what I'm gonna tell them. What makes me different? Here's what I
Well,
feel
I'm not
makes me
asking what
different than a
makes you
lot of
different. It's
candidates.
just
What makes
what
me a
is
good candidate?
well,
Okay.
why is it that you're running? What is it that you see that may need change? You're
Doing
changed,
this
right?
job for as long as I've done it. Let me give you a simple, like the first answer that pops into my head. And not, as you can tell already, listeners, none of this is scripted. We're just, shooting back and forth. So the one thing that I feel makes me want to be a judge is this. Doing this as long as I have, being in a courtroom, I see a lot of judges who make decisions or don't make decisions based on the fear of what's going to happen if they do a certain decision. You understand what I'm saying? Like, what's the political backlash going to be? What's the backlash from, God forbid, if this person, I release this person today and they commit another crime tomorrow, am I going to be on the cover of the newspaper? I've seen a lot of judges make decisions that I know deep down inside they're only making because of political backlash, other reasons. Let's say ulterior motives. Let's just leave it at that.
Well, I can say it. I
What
can
I,
say this. That one thing about it is if that Nick Speranza is out here on my show, then you're an independent guy, meaning that you are not beholden to anyone, right? So you're not going to go up there
no one,
and do things based on political reasons, right? Because
nobody
you're coming, and I say that because those who are beholden to certain individuals and and are held, their hand
wouldn't
is
be on your
held there,
show.
wouldn't be on my show, right?
Exactly.
Absolutely.
So there
So
you go. I'm
that
beholden.
right there, I guess, if there's anything you want
I'm,
to
I'm
you want to say.
beholden. I am beholden to nobody on this planet Earth except my family and now the people of Yonkers. If I wasn't prepared to be a judge for each and every resident of Yonkers, I wouldn't be here today. I would be doing something else with my time. I mean, it's the truth. People say it's not the most high paying job in the world. I'm not doing it so I can drive a Ferrari. You know, I'm doing it because I want to serve the people of Yonkers, and that's the only thing I'm beholden to. You'll never. What I can promise the people of Yonkers is this right now: two things. One, I'm not using this job as a stepping stone to try to get to another court, and I'm not putting down the people who do that. Okay, who say I'm going to do Yonkers for a couple of years, and I'm going to go to Supreme Court or County Court or
Yeah, I
somewhere
was going to
else,
ask you
or
about
even
that.
or even let's be honest, political aspirations after that, beyond the law. I'm not putting those people down. Everyone's different. But me personally, I'll make a vow to the voters of Yonkers right now, to you, to the point where if I ever do, when I do get elected, if I ever did change what I'm saying right now, you have every right to call me back and say I was a hypocrite, but I won't. I'm not leaving Yonkers. I'm not taking this job to try to get somewhere else in a couple of years. It's not about being a judge to me. It's about being a Yonkers judge. If I had the opportunity to run in a county court election tomorrow and somebody was going to hand it to me, I don't want it. I'd rather have my job right now. I like what I do. I want to be a Yonkers judge. I grew up in Yonkers. My family comes from Yonkers. Every member of my family for the past since 1950. My great grandfather, when he emigrated here back in the 40s, he basically settled on Walnut Street. Everybody on my family is from Walnut Street. My father's laundromat. By the way, half the people on the show probably recognize me from my dad. He coached Speranza. I look just like him. He had the laundromat on Walnut Street. I mean, that was my family, DNS laundromat, my entire life. You're looking like you know it. You probably do. Watford, I can't hear.
Sorry, that's
I can,
Coach Speranza. That I saw a
yeah,
picture on the website said Coach Speranza. I
that's
thought I
him.
had the
Yeah.
wrong page, but
No,
I did know, or, know your cousin, right? I went to school 16 with your cousin,
yeah.
and so he was a good friend of mine. Actually, I would go to his house, and I even had a sleepover. I mean, this was many, many, many years
It's a
ago.
small world.
We were in
Tell
fifth
everybody
grade at the time. Yeah.
Tell everybody what he does right now. He's in the Secret Service. I believe he
Oh,
was
yeah.
stationed in the White House
I
watching the
didn't want to
president.
mention it, but yeah,
But no, yeah, that's what he does. But no, I mean, Yonkers
that's
is a
good to
small place.
hear.
And see, everybody I know comes from Yonkers. I'm as Yonkers as you'll get, right down to my accent. I can't hide that. You talk to me for 5 minutes. I was talking to a guy. I was on vacation in Rhode Island a couple of months ago, and within 5 minutes, the guy's like, "Oh, are you from Yonkers?" Yes. How'd you know? Your accent. And he's
I
like,
didn't know
"Oh, I
we
know
had a
people from."
distinct accent in
We do,
Yonkers.
believe it or not, we do. But that's why I don't want to be a judge. I want to be a Yonkers judge. And if the day ever comes when I do choose to leave Yonkers, which I won't, you can say, Nick, you're a hypocrite. But that day won't ever
Well, I
come.
was going to say that, we
So
often see that, right? We see people become city court judges, and maybe they do that for 2 years and then they move on to, the Supreme, right? And
yeah,
what, did they get enough experience? You can obviously tell it's just all a matter of climbing the success ladder, right? And
yeah,
not
it's not
being a
about that.
good judge.
Not about that for me. I just got through telling you I'm a public defender. I'm not in this for the money. I'm not in this for the honor. I'm not the type of person. I don't need validation from anybody except myself. I don't want anybody to call me the honorable. Anybody who knows me knows that this conversation we're having right now, this is the same way I talk to you on the street. I saw I saw one of my clients
Same
yesterday.
speed and everything.
Yeah, that's it. I mean, I see my clients on the street. It doesn't matter if I'm talking to a politician, or if I'm talking to somebody who's been to state prison 3 times. You're gonna have the same conversation with me. Anybody who knows me knows I am who I am. I don't change myself 1% for anybody.
What do you think about this? Can you answer this conversation? Being that you have family, friends that are employed by the city, how would you handle a situation like Stephen Dolan, the city employee who, drove drunk and killed 16-year-old CJ Hackett, or with any other crimes perpetrated by city workers, right? Because you are embedded, you are deep rooted in the city. You have a lot of friends, obviously. I'm sure some of them or a lot of them may work for the city. If there's a situation where one of them comes before you,
We understand. That's the first thing. If
so you
somebody
recuse yourself, right?
you have to recuse yourself. Yeah, and believe it or not, that happens more often than not, especially when it's a city employee or something like that. You would have
Well,
to
how can
recuse
anyone
yourself.
from Yonkers be a city court judge almost? Because it's like everyone knows each other, right? Such a
Well,
small.
a lot of times when cases like that happen, you have to have judges coming from other jurisdictions. If it's a city employee, that happens more often than not. But Yeah, we take this very, when I say we, I mean the legal profession. We take this very seriously. There can't be a 1% chance of nepotism. And I mean, some judges are more stringent than others. Like some judges will say, "Oh, I went to grade school with that guy's second cousin's father's aunt's, roommate. I can't have him in front of me." I don't think that would be me. But if I know somebody like you, for example, God forbid,
Right.
if you got
No,
arrested
you have to
tomorrow.
stay on mine. You have to stay. Don't recuse yourself if I'm ever before you. You have to stay
But
with
no,
me.
I can't, Freddie. I wouldn't
I
be
don't.
able to. I mean, it
I've
wouldn't be
never
fair.
met you before. I have amnesia. They all recuse themselves not to go against Spano. Well, I don't know about specifically not to go against Spano, but I do see a lot of times judges are recusing themselves. Like this is like a thing in Yonkers, right? Even in my
It is.
lawsuit,
Well, I'm sure it's a
being
thing
sued,
everywhere, Freddie.
had two judges recuse themselves
Yeah,
from
but Freddie, I'm
my
sure it's a
lawsuit.
thing everywhere. It's probably a thing anywhere
Maybe.
you go.
I don't know.
I mean, Yonkers is just bigger than most places, but I'm sure the same stuff happens in White Plains and Mount Vernon when people. I mean, people want to be fair, and it's not. They're. But
I mean,
yeah,
I
no,
didn't
I
know
think a
who the
little.
judges were, but I'm assuming they knew the
Hey,
individual that's suing me,
like I said, the
probably.
one thing I will say is
And that's bad.
what the other thing that makes me, let's not say different, let's say special, is the fact that I'm beholden to nobody, and the decisions I will make, I'm not doing it for fear of anything. I'm not doing it because I'm saying, "Oh, what are the politicians going to say about this? Am I going to get in trouble for making this decision?" If I feel it's the right thing to do, I'm going to do it.
I want to ask this question. He asked, what about the lady you are running against? She is family court lawyer, not a criminal judge. How does that play a part in her knowing what's going on? Basically, like, she doesn't have the criminal court experience, right? But yeah, she,
No, I'm not. And I'm not saying. I will say that my opponents are both very knowledgeable, good lawyers and good judges, and they deserve to be there. You'll never hear me knock one of my opponents.
let's talk about the differences, right? Not about anyone specifically, but about criminal court and family court, right? I was speaking to a gentleman who has some issues with the family court system. What are the differences between a family court judge and a criminal court
Well,
judge?
the one thing I will say is this: I can't really answer that question 100% because I've never worked in family court, but I mean, I do know a thing or two about it, as everybody does, and I do have friends and people that I know who work in family court, and a lot of people say that it's even more emotional than criminal court because you're
Oh, I'm
not dealing
sure.
with. Think about it. What I deal with is I'm dealing with people's freedom here, which is probably one of the most important things in the world. But when you think about it, you're dealing with family court. You're dealing with people's kids. You're dealing with breaking up families. That's not easy. There's something easy to do anyway. It takes a very, let's be honest, Freddie. It takes a very special person and a very devoted person to even step foot as an attorney or a magistrate in family court. It really does.
I laugh because do that because some people would highly disagree with you on that, and I'm just saying what
What do you
people
mean?
have told me. But in terms of like a family court judge is like an administrator, right? They're not actually a judge. They're
Yeah, they
just
are. They're
more.
judges. They're
But
judges.
I mean, in that role, they're administrating more. Someone was explaining that to me, and I just didn't know. Maybe you can explain that. That they're an administrator as opposed to in a court of
Well,
law,
well, you
right?
realize the family court is the only area of law that Yonkers City Court does not, you know, take part in. We're not going to be, there's a special, separate division for family court law. We do criminal, civil, landlord, tenant, small claims, um, tickets, things like that. Not family court. That's not something that I can do. And I'm going to be honest with you. I don't see myself as a family court judge. I don't, for personal reasons, is not something I feel I could do, and that's why I'm not doing it.
Criminal court is for you, right?
Of course, for me, yeah, that's
um,
what I've been doing my whole career.
Look, as a city court judge, they get paid pretty good, right? I think they make what about 200 grand a year. That's a pretty penny, considering the average here in the city of Yonkers is $35,000 a year. You know, so what is it about being a judge as opposed to continuing to be an attorney that really? Why is it now? Why do you feel like this is the
I'm
time?
going to state it again. The money is, I think it's a little bit less than that
Well, I
actually,
know it's not
but it's
about
not.
the money.
But it's not. It's I could open up my own law firm tomorrow and probably make more than that. I mean, I know I have connections here. I know what I'm doing. The one thing I will say that I'll pat myself on the back is, and this, I'm sure you won't be able to find one person in this city or even this county who knows me who would say that I'm not a good trial attorney. My record speaks for itself. I have more acquittals than I do convictions, a lot more. So I am a trial attorney, and if I wanted to, I can do that. I feel that I could make more of a difference. I really do as a judge. And that's why I'm here. I
Well,
really
tell
do
us, what are
feel.
some of those differences you feel that you will make as a judge? What are some of those differences?
As in what area of law? I mean, if you're talking about in criminal law, I feel that I keep saying criminal because that criminal is basically the biggest part of Yonkers City Court for the most part. That's the part that it's, let's just say, it's the biggest piece of the pie. And I really do feel that the decisions I would make based on my knowledge of criminal law would better everybody in the city. They really would.
And I know it's tough, right? As a judge, you guys are not supposed to be political or engage in,
No, not at all. I'm not
political
even telling you what
stuff.
party I am because it doesn't matter. People
But
ask
I
me what
see,
party I am now.
oftentimes, however, I do see judges at political events and fundraisers, right? They're wearing the
You're
big, I
you're
call them the license plates.
you're allowed to go if you're running for court, and then after you're
Okay.
elected, I believe there's after you're elected, there's a six month, I believe it is, grace period where you're still allowed to go. But there are special rules that govern that too. For example, judges aren't allowed to make donations. We can go, but we can't make donations to other people's political campaigns. And yeah, like I said, that's I got to be honest with you though. A lot. What is funny though, I will say this. What's funny about judicial candidates is that a lot of people consider being a judicial candidate and getting office is going to those fundraisers and those parties as their path to victory. And there's a different path to victory for everybody. Everybody has a different way of getting there. Any sport, any profession in the world, there's always two ways to get to the end goal. And a lot of people feel that that's the quote unquote easiest way, or the way that they should be putting on a suit and tie and going to these events and paying their money and giving paying their dues, so to speak, to a certain political party, whatever that may be, to try to get the endorsement next time. And let's be honest, the reason people want to get the endorsement is because I've been doing this long enough that I can state this on the record. I'm not stating for everybody, but I'm stating it's my opinion that the party helps people out and they make things easier on the person. If you're somebody like me, people know me as Freddie. You know this as well as anybody. But what do people call me? The ShopRite guy. I guarantee you half the people on this list right now are looking at me and they're like, oh, I
Yeah.
know that guy.
Yeah.
Somebody who's laughing. I hear someone laughing.
No,
No?
that was me. I'm just saying, yeah, because I remember you would be out there at
Stand in front of me.
ShopRite, you would have your people there, helping you get signatures and
Okay.
stuff.
What does everybody have in common, Freddie? In any city in the world, they got to eat, right? So if you cover all three of the major supermarkets in Yonkers, eventually you're going to meet a lot of people. And I
Right.
feel that if I had 2 hours to kill one night, would that time be better suited putting on a suit and tie and go standing at a political event with this? Let's be honest, with the same 30 people who you see at every single political event. Yes or no, Freddie?
Yeah,
Or
yeah,
would
that's
that
true.
time be better? Or would that time be better spent going into an apartment building and knocking on every door, or standing outside of a ShopRite or a Whole Foods for the next 2 hours and meeting everybody who walks in and shaking their hand and say, hey, I deserve to be a judge? And people are very receptive. You'd be surprised how receptive people are. And they all say the same thing to me. I can't believe you're doing this yourself. I can't believe you're doing this yourself. Why?
It's not
I'm the one who
easy.
wants. No, I'm the one
It's
who wants.
definitely
Well, that's
not
the
easy.
thing. And I say, and it's funny. I had this conversation with my son about an hour and a half ago. About an hour and a half ago, we were doing lit drops. And me and him, he's 9 years old. The kid, you know my son, Freddie. Your son's a year younger than him. And he was running up and down the street. He's like, Daddy, he's all out of breath. He's like, I can't believe how hard this is. I said, Marco, if it was easy, everyone would do it, you know?
Right. Right. Well, that's
And
why
he said,
some people take that easy route, right? They, like you said, there's two ways of doing it, right? You can
yeah.
go to the events, be a part of that circle, and pay your dues and wait in the
People
line,
do that, Freddie.
right?
Freddie, people do that. I know a judge who
Yeah. Oh,
did
I
that
know.
for
I know.
judge. I know
I
a
know.
judge who did that for 10 years to become a judge for 7 or 8. Think about that. And
Yeah.
he was the
Well,
Yonkers City Court judge until so to have a job for 7 years, this guy went out and did that for 10 years. Me personally,
and
and my
some don't have to
personality,
do it very long, and they get it right
some
away,
don't.
right?
That
But
happens
then
to some
there's
people
you
too.
and other people, and even like what I like to do, I like to get to know the people. Then you go out there and you meet people, and you gain the true support of the people, genuine
And I'm
support
not
of the
saying that one
people.
way is better than the other. It's
No, it
just
is. There is one way better
find
than
your
that.
yeah, well, find your way, though. That's all I'm telling you as a candidate. Find whatever path you want to take and take that path and stick to it. That's my only advice to anybody getting into anything that's politically, whether it's a judge. But I'm not a politician. You know that. I'll tell people that every day. What's funny is I never in a million years. What do you think of my lawn sign? It's different, right?
Yeah, I've been seeing them around. Yeah, I
He's
know
not
that was what I noticed first. Your colors were not
people.
traditional.
That's
Well, the gold
that.
anyway.
But the point I'm making is, I never in a million years thought I would see my name on a lawn sign because I never really, in New Rochelle, judges, they're not. I believe it's New Rochelle and White Plains. Don't quote me on the exact numbers, but I believe in New Rochelle, three of the four judges aren't even. There's no election. They're just picked by the parties, and they're appointed. That's the word I'm looking for, appointed. Same thing with White Plains. So I didn't going into this growing up. I always knew in the back of my head the next step would be a judge. I didn't even know that what it encompassed, that I would basically be doing the same thing as a politician. And I'm not a politician. I never thought I would be involved in something like this. And if I don't win this, I would do it again. Believe I will. And that's the only job that I want that people would have to elect me to. Nothing against politicians. It's just that's not who I am.
So how's it been going though? How's it everything been going out there, getting signatures, meeting
It's
people?
all on me. People are very, as a whole, and I say this not about elections. I've said this my whole life. As a whole, I believe in the goodness of people. You'd be surprised, Freddie. I mean, there are bad apples. There's exceptions to every rule. And believe it or not, I've been out there for campaigning now for 2 years, and there have been times when I was scared. Believe me, there have been times when I was in situations where I didn't know if I was in a safe situation because I'm doing everything on my own. I'm out there
Right.
myself. But for the most part, people are amazing. They really are, Fred. I mean, I meet people on the street, and they're so kind. It's not even funny. When people they invite me to the house, how many people gave me water bottles? They said, "You look like you can use it." One guy, more than one guy, a number of people gave me a cup of hot coffee. People, they want it. And another thing is, people genuinely like to talk. If they meet
Right.
you for 30 seconds and they see, like, I feel like the one thing that, not the one thing, but one of the things I feel that shines through with me is my sincerity. I don't pretend to be something I'm not. If I don't like somebody, then they'll know it within 10 seconds of speaking with me. But when you meet somebody on the street and you start talking to somebody and it has nothing to do with an election, you just find some common ground. I'm not even joking. Yesterday, I knocked on some woman's door and she opened up her door to her apartment, and behind her she had a certain weight bench that was in her living room. As I'm talking, I'm looking at it, I'm like, oh, I got that same bench in my garage. We talked about that for 20 minutes, like literally. We
Yeah, it's
never,
all
and
about
the answer,
connecting with people.
I
I've
never,
learned that from
I
sales.
forgot to even tell her to vote for me. We just talked about that. And then when we were done talking about this, she's like, okay, bye, I'll see you later. And I walked away. And I'm like, oh crap, I forgot to campaign with that woman. But that's what it's about. And the same thing goes as my job. When I meet my clients, you got to remember something. When are you in your two most vulnerable states? Think about it. When you are in a doctor's office or a lawyer's office, right or wrong, So when
Yeah,
somebody
yeah.
comes in, when somebody comes into my office, they're in a bad place. And as a person, one thing most of my clients know is that I have a Keurig in my office. And one of the first things I'll do is when somebody comes in for an interview, I get you a cup of coffee. You'd be surprised how that makes a difference, right? It really does. Like, oh, this
Sure,
isn't
sure.
just this isn't just like some lawyer who's rushing me and he's sitting down, he's having a cup of coffee with me. I keep certain things on my desk that I know people will be receptive to. Like, I have my father's diorama of the original Yankee Stadium. So we're in New York, of course. You know, 5 out of
Yeah.
every 10 males that come into my office, they notice it, and we have a conversation about that.
They're a
So
Yankee fan, right? Well,
yeah, I
tell
mean,
us about DJ OP Sullivan. He says, "What are some of your notable wins as a trial attorney? Is there any case that you can think off the top of your head that really stands out, and why? Why did that particular case stand out to their particular client?"
it's part of my job. I'm going to be honest with you. I can't really get into the specifics of it. I
Well,
can't.
yeah, maybe not, but just
Just,
maybe
you
a
know, it is.
specific client. I helped them. We won. We connected. As surfacey as
I
possible.
mean, I've helped. I'm thinking of some of the things that you got to realize in my career. I probably represented. I want to say, let's do the math on it, for 20
Now,
years,
how many have you
couple thousand,
represented?
20,000 people.
Really?
20,000 people. And you want to know what's funny? For the most
And how
part,
long? I'm sorry. How long have you been with Legal Aid
19
for
years.
now?
19 years.
19 years.
I represent
Wow.
easy 1,000 people a year. And the funny
Right.
thing is
Yeah.
that when I see people on the street,
Wow.
I tell people all the time, I've never been beaten up or stabbed or, spit on. So people must like me. Not everybody that sees me says, oh, Speranza, he's a good lawyer. He helped me out. So it's a good feeling.
Wow. Yeah,
It
it's a
is.
lot of people.
All right, here's a guy took the trial. Here's a story for you. A guy that I took to trial. this was I won't tell you his name, obviously. It's
Yeah,
I
yeah, of
can't do
course.
that, but he was arrested for police brutality. Apparently he hit an officer, and I got him acquitted. And I got his girlfriend to take the stand, and I won't get into the reasons why, but basically, based on his girlfriend's testimony, it was proven that he, in fact, did not commit
Mm,
brutality against the officers, and he was completely acquitted, and he walked out. About a month after that, my father and I are in a food store. I won't even tell you which one for purposes of complete
right.
anonymity. This guy sees me and literally comes out of nowhere and gives me a bear hug, picks me up, and tells my father, "Now, I'm free because of your son. Like, I'm here working today because of your son. If it wasn't for him," he's like, and he didn't go above and beyond to do what he did. And believe me, I won't get into how, but I pulled a rabbit out of a hat in that trial, the likes of which no one ever saw, to get this guy acquitted. And he was. He said, "If it wasn't for your son, I would be in jail right now. I owe my life to him." The funny thing is, my dad passed away shortly after that, but that
Mm,
always meant something to me.
sorry to
The
hear.
fact that we had that interaction with that guy in the supermarket, and the guy was so enthusiastic. And you can tell the sincerity in his eyes.
Sure,
Dad, he
sure, I'm
literally said
sure.
to my dad,
I
he's
mean,
like,
that's big impact to your life, going to jail, especially if you didn't commit the crime, right? And other things you have to go through and your family goes through, so
scary,
I'm sure
yeah,
that
it's
you've
scary.
helped a lot of people, and I'm sure they're very grateful for that, right? Anyone that that you help keep out of jail, especially they were
I'd like to,
completely innocent, are
yeah,
grateful about that.
I'd like to think so. And like I said, yeah, I don't want anybody that. The funny thing is, you can't go into an election like this and stand up here and say what your point of view is
I
as a
think that's
judicial.
strange.
It is, but it's like in a way, it's kind of good because I don't want to separate 50% of my voters based on how I would or would not personally feel about any one issue. You know what I'm saying?
So how
So
would one go about that, right? Let's say, okay, well, we want to decide who we're going to vote for, right? Are we going to vote for Nick or the other individuals? How am I going to decide this as a voter?
like I said, a lot of things come into play. Like what I said, I'm not saying makes me different than anybody else, but what
Well, I
makes
mean,
me,
let's say someone didn't see you on the podcast, right? They don't know you. You didn't get a chance to maybe meet them knocking on
okay,
doors.
here's another thing for you. I mean, I did not move to Yonkers with the intention of running for judge. Yonkers, I got to be honest with, like I said before, here's one thing that will stand out when people say to me, "You still live in Yonkers." It makes me feel like people feel that Yonkers is on a downward, slope, and it's getting worse, and you got to jump ship before things get worse. It's not. Yonkers is still a beautiful place, and it's most likely going to stay this way for a long time. And politics aside, it's a question of keeping it that way. And everybody is a cog in the wheel that makes this place turn. And if everybody, from me to the teachers to the sanitation department to everybody in the city, gets up every day and puts their pants on and goes to work and says, "I'm going to do the best job possible today," then that's pretty much it. Somebody just said something about my mother.
No, I
I
was gonna
read.
go. Yeah, I was gonna wait for you to finish. He said, "I wish him the best. It's very endearing that his mother has accompanied him as well. It's also very scary that politicians have so much power over the judges they help get elected. The system is broken."
I'm not going to say that it is or it isn't. I'm going to say that my mother helped me out a lot, and she's, she. I won't get into the reason why, but she. Here's her birthday today, by the way. She just turned
Oh,
70.
happy birthday to your mother.
That's that's why I was late for this. We went to give her a cake and presents, but my mother worked tirelessly to help me get signatures. And people said that to me all the time. Getting the signatures was one of the hardest parts of this whole campaign. And
Yeah.
I planned, like I said, I'm not going to state what party I'm under, but I collected signatures for every party in Yonkers to prove that one party isn't better or worse than the other. And you don't have to be beholden to a party if you're willing to go out there and do the work yourself. And we did it. And my 69-year-old mother, at the time she was 69, today she's 70, the amount of signatures that she got, the
Really?
amount of signatures that this woman got herself was mind-boggling to everybody in the system. Like, how did she do this realistically? And she did it. She went and she met with these people, and she said, "You please vote for my son." Obviously, whoever just posted that knew about it because I didn't mention it until now. So people remember that about. Thank you, thank you very much. And yeah, it broke. And I got to be honest with you, she was left with a very bad taste in her mouth because even after doing what she did, people said things that were just not true about the way she collected signatures from people, and people signed affidavits.
Yeah.
And here you have a 69-year-old widow who's never been involved in politics a day in her life, and she loves her sons and her grandkids more than anything in the world, and she would do anything. When I asked her to get the signatures for me, she would have done anything I asked her to. If I said, "Ma, whatever, we got to go, and we got to, I want to get a job tomorrow as the manager of Longhorn Steakhouse, so we got to go to Longhorn Steakhouse right now, and you got to help me clear the table," she would have done that, Freddie. She's there for her kids, but I taught her how to get signatures, and she did it in a way. When she was accused of saying things and doing things that she never did, I knew it was coming as a political somebody who's involved in the system, and you know the way things are, but she didn't, and
Right.
she was
And
like
I didn't hear anything about that. I didn't hear anything mentioned about your.
No, I can't get into it much more than that.
I know, but I'm just saying I didn't see anything. But I mean, look, there's real people we need to be questioning and looking into when it comes to gathering signatures and petitions, right? And we have actual proof of individuals forging signatures. Really quick, what law school did you graduate from? I'm sorry.
Pace Law School.
Pace.
There you go. I can tell you one thing. My mother, she looking back, you know what she said to me? She's like, I spent a month of my life, 24 hours a day out there getting signatures. She's like, and you got to keep in mind something in this. My dad passed away a couple of years ago, broke my mother's heart. Her whole world was shattered, and she's still in a bad place as anybody would be. He passed away very unexpected, pancreatic cancer. We didn't see it coming. She planned on, he retired from the Yonkers school systems, and when he was 65, and she planned on having a nice, healthy life and traveling. And obviously, after that happened, her whole life was blown apart. She said to me, "Nick, I got to be honest with you, regardless of what happens, win or lose, getting those signatures was the most fun I ever had." And it was for me too. I loved it. I lost 15 pounds in 1 month getting those signatures.
It's definitely not easy. It's a lot of walking. It's definitely a lot of work.
20 miles a day to do it yourself.
For your mom to have been there, right there with you and gathering these signatures.
Wife too, by the way.
And your wife and your brother, right? And so I know it was a family affair. It was a family affair.
That's all it was.
And God bless, because it should be that way. I'm sure she is proud because you didn't sell out for your dream. She raised you with morals, and it's clear. The fact that you are running, knowing the deal, is very impressive.
Thank you. I really.
And you definitely know the deal.
Thank you. I know. I'm not scared. Hey, Freddie, I'm no different than you. There's nothing on the face of this planet Earth, with the exception of the health of my family, that scares me. Nothing.
Right.
I'm intimidated by nothing. I'm scared of nothing. So and obviously you can relate to that.
Yeah, well, not many people are that way, and not to knock them or nothing like that. It's very tough here in Yonkers to do things like this, and it does take a lot of courage to go out there, and your family going out there with you. Even though they're not running, they're also putting themselves out there, right? And they're becoming potential targets for people who play dirty politics. Right? They were saying things about your mom and the way she was collecting signature. It's an elderly woman. I mean, you would think there'll be some level of respect there. All right.
Hey, it is what it is, man.
How come you don't have any lawn signs on the south side of Yonkers? All your lawn signs on the north side and Central Avenue? And he would know. He's all over Yonkers.
There's a very good reason for that. The reason for that is because I literally just collected my lawn signs. Everything's being done out of my house. I'm in my house right now. Hold on, Freddie. Let me show you what my lawn signs are. This is it. This is the reason why. Here's the answer to that question. Here you go. The simple answer to that question is this. Hold on. Can you see that, Fred?
Yeah. Oh, okay.
The simple answer is they didn't get there.
Stack there.
They literally just didn't get there yet. I'm going to. I just live closer here, so I'm going closer to home first, because you got to keep in mind, me and my family and my close friends are doing all this ourselves. So any lawn sign you see is me knocking on that door. Not that there's anything wrong with people who don't, but any lawn sign you see out was me or a family member or friend knocking on the door, introducing ourselves, saying, "Please give us the honor of." We will reach I have 200 signs coming soon, and we will reach the south side of Yonkers very soon, within the next week.
This is why I really strongly try to encourage people, especially who want change, to get involved and volunteer for the people that are change, right? It's hard to get people to help you. I know exactly how that is, even when offering to pay for people, right? To pay people to do it. But if you want change, we have to come together as a community and be able to help candidates who are the change and say, hey, we can volunteer so we can assure that we get the change that we're looking for, right? Voted in. Because, they have a system, the other people have a system and lots of money.
Yeah, well, you want to know something? In all honesty, I have no qualms about being the underdog here. I realize that. I've known this since day one. I'm not fighting it. And I'm the type of person where I'm not, this about me already, Fred. You know me for some time. I'm not the type of person who likes asking for favors. I really don't, even from close friends. That's not, I believe that there's only really two types of people in this world, the givers and takers, and you're either one or the other. And I'm the type of person where I don't like taking, and I'd rather go out there myself and hit a building myself rather than ask someone else to do it for me. And I say that one of my favorite quotes to people is, if I don't shake your hand, I probably don't deserve your vote anyway. So hopefully it does a lot. So the one thing I ask of people right now is, if you do find one of my flyers under your door, there's a good chance that it was myself, one of my kids, my friends, my family who put it there, not a mailer, not somebody on our group. So just please, I beg of you this, pick it up, look it over, spend a couple of seconds, maybe even, all you got to do is Google my name and I'm the first hit that comes up, Nick Speranza, Yonkers. Go on my website for a second, learn something about me, and just you got to take a leap of faith. You really do. Like I just picture that scene. Who remembers that scene at the end of the Last Crusade, Indiana Jones, when he walked out and he put his foot forward and he thought he was going to fall down the chasm, and he didn't, and there was a path there. Same thing here. You got to take that step and just give me a small chance, and I promise you I won't let you down. Freddie?
There you have it, folks. Nick Speranza running for city court judge. I apologize. I put it on mute because I have a sub pump over here, and I have things working on overtime because of all this flooding that we got. It's
right.
crazy.
I just get my closing speech. Did you even hear it?
Yeah, no, I heard it. I heard it. I just had it on mute so that way it wouldn't be, interrupted by any noise that may be in the background. Like I said, I have a sub pump here. I have water draining and stuff. It's a lot of water that came into the.
How big was your flood?
I had. Well, no. Fortunately, I was home. When it started, so I was able to keep up with it. But had I stayed at the office like I was intending on today, just staying there all day, it would have been a mess. Thank God. So, but a lot of people suffered. Neighbors also. You see there was a mess, Central Avenue and everything. But no, I heard your closing speech, and I was going to say that if anyone's needs more information about you, I was going to tell them where to go. I was showing your website there. Beautiful family there, Nick. By the way,
Thank you.
Beautiful family. It's always good. You went to Iona, I see. I graduated from Iona. Believe it or not, I know some people called me a liar on that, but the Hagen School of Business. I got my MBA from Iona. I went to Mercy College.
My wife went to Mercy. I was Iona Prep. I was Iona College, Pace Law School. My wife was Maria Regina, and then Mercy College for her her general degree and then her master's. She went to first WCC, then Mercy. I went to Iona for the full time. Yeah, we're all as local gets. We really are. I mean, God willing, I would love for my son and my daughter to follow in both of our footsteps for Maria and Iona. But who knows? With tuition the way it is now, you got to sell a kidney,
Absolutely. Everything is going up, and including the cost of campaigning. So if you like to donate to Nick Speranza's campaign, you can go on his page here and click donate right here and learn a little bit more about Nick. He have his phone number there and other information for you to learn more about him and his campaign. So if you are interested in supporting, donate. It costs money, right? It costs money to run elections.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing the outpouring of people. Like, that's my cell phone number. Anybody who ever wants to call me, my clients know this as well. The police officers I deal with, everybody who knows me knows. That's my cell phone. That's not a campaign account. That's not my campaign manager. You know what? I don't even have a campaign manager. I really don't.
Don't prank call Nick now. Don't prank call him now.
If you want, just 24 hours a day. Seriously, I go to bed late, but call me if you talk about anything. That's what I'm here for.
Or if you need an attorney, right? If you've been arrested and you have that one phone call to make sure you call Nick Speranza. You can go to his website, nickforYonkersCourt.com.
Freddie, it's a pleasure. Thank you, buddy.
No, thank you. I appreciate you for coming on. That was brave of you, right? That shows you're one of the good guys. Nick, I appreciate it. And we'll be talking again soon as we get closer 100%. To the elections. All right, folks.
I forgot this was a podcast. I thought this was just us talking like we're doing the phone.
Yeah, that's what I want to do. Have people just kind of listen and get to know, ask questions, or and engage in the conversation as well. Make comments as well. As you see people wishing your mom happy birthday, let her know
Thank
people
you.
are
Thank you.
wishing her a happy birthday. And also, they're saying that they're looking to support you. They appreciate the way that you're honest and genuine, that you're not selling out. So, the more you get out there, like I said, I know what it's like. I know it costs a lot of money to really campaign, mailers and all that, but getting to know people, and really leaving a mark on people, an impression, that goes a long way. People then talk to other people, word of mouth spreads, and then people get to know Nick Speranza. And then when November comes, they roll. So Nick, we'll be talking soon, man. Take care. I appreciate
we'll do it
you
again.
joining.
You got it,
Take
brother.
care, brother. Have a good one.
Be safe, everyone, in the weather. Thanks, guys.
Yep. That's Nick Speranza running for a city court judge. He's a good guy. Know Nick, for probably since 2021. Nick actually came over to our grand opening of our Lockwood location. He did bring his wife and his son. That's how I got to meet them as well. So if you're interested in learning more, go to Nick for City Court. Is it? No, Nick for Yonkers Court, .com. Nick for YonkersCourt.com. Get to learn more. You can donate there, or you can simply vote for him in November if you want to support Nick and see him become the next city court judge here in the city of Yonkers. Folks, the mayoral debate was yesterday. If you didn't see it, I posted the entire thing on the page. I did a little recap, but, I was wanting to talk about it again because, I did get text messages today about it. People were giving me their opinions. People were writing comments and messages. A lot of people said that, they thought that Anthony Moranti did good. I heard, someone said Anthony Moranti got smoked. All right. But for the most part, people said good things about Anthony. And not that I'm saying anything bad about Councilman Moranti, I don't think that he nailed it, right? I don't think that he really, drove home a lot of the points. He had opportunities to really kind of, back Mayor Mike Spano up into a corner on some of the things that he said. For example, on the affordable housing, why is it that the mayor vetoed the affordable housing ordinance, right? When we need a more affordable housing, there's still a crisis here. Regardless the amount of development we see going up, a very small percentage of that development is affordable housing. And so it's very limited, and more people are competing for those few apartments. All right. So it's still a crisis. We still need more affordable housing. Increasing the ordinance would have increased it a lot more, right? It would have forced these developers to add more affordable housing in these developments, especially the ones that are being built by the water, right? So we're limited until the end, those who qualify for affordable housing that will be able to afford those units on the water, right? They deserve waterfront property too and great views, right? Everyone else is being blocked. So I think he could have really nailed that home. Also on terms in regards to term limits and how he felt in his relationship, the mayor's relationship with the city council president, who my wife said to chill, be easy for whatever reason. She said, Freddie, I want you to do me a solid. But I don't know if it's I will keep that to myself to come. But she could have mentioned that relationship, right? And maybe that being the reason why she introduced the legislation to extend the terms, right? And their very closeness, does impact politics, right? The checks and balance are the city council. So he could have drove that home. Also, in regards to the building department, he could have mentioned the fact that, Sam Borelli, who hates me, and I'll probably get another violation, because if I mention this guy, Sam, you got to stop with the pattern, right? Because I'm going to show this pattern. It's a pattern, right? Every time I mention you, I get a violation. So, they sent me a violation at my new location recently, right? And that's not why, I'm not upset about it. It's stupid. For a banner, a temporary banner, right? I mentioned his name. Sam Borelli is the guy that runs the building department, but Sam was not qualified for the job initially. So it took Mike Breen, the city councilman for the 5th district, to introduce legislation. It's incredible the legislation these people introduce legislation to reduce the requirement of the building department commissioner, so that Sam Borelli, who was DPW deputy commissioner at the time, could then take the job. The building department is still crap. The developers are the priority there. For the building department, for the planning board, for the zoning board. That's a fact. For the IDA, the priority for the administration, for everyone in the city of Yonkers is the developers, right? And so he should have nailed that or drilled that that point home, or drove that point home, and talked about the fact that they reduced the requirements, the fact that how long now have we been saying, since the guy before Vincent Pesci, right, the former building commissioner, was in charge, we were talking about the mess in the building department, the fact that it was unorganized, files were missing, folders were incomplete. Why has a digital system not been developed already? And this is just my opinion. I believe that they wanted to keep that paper, mess that they had there, folders missing. They didn't want to organize it because they wanted to get away with certain things, and especially with properties being sold, this, that, and the third, right? They didn't want all the information there. Once everything is developed, right, everything is new, then they're going to have a digital system where people can go online. They can do everything right there through the website. They can even self-certified with their, architect, if that architect is also a licensed engineer, right? But now they want to keep it a mess, right? Because they can get away with stuff. So that's why it's still like that. But he should have really talked about that. He should have talked about the fact that, the building commissioner is not doing a great job. This is the third building commissioner in such a short amount of time, and he's not doing a great job. And it doesn't make sense why hire a deputy with a, who's a licensed engineer, but not, have the building commissioner, the top guy, be a licensed engineer, right? And so it's all political stuff. The guy, that's a political appointment, and he should have talked about it. Sam Borelli once ran for mayor. Sam Borelli is a Democratic operative. He may be even a ward leader or district leader. I don't know, maybe, right? So it should have, he should have talked more about that. Sign inspector and building department makes $160,000 to harass businesses, daycare centers that have temporary vinyl banners that I zip tied to the fence, behind the fence. So I don't know what the issue is. Why would I get a permit for a banner that's temporary? Because I'm talking about enrolling. We also have a temporary one saying enrolling for the summer. Should I get a permit for that? So I want to know, Sam, and all the sign inspectors, all the other buildings that have those banners, the home daycare centers that have the same banner up, the businesses that just opened up the grand openings where they'll have a banner for a grand opening, did they get permits for those? I mean, they're not going to be up long. There's no electrical connections. There's no wiring. There's nothing. It's a vinyl banner that you get from Vistaprint. Like, it's crazy that this is what they harassed the landlady at the last location for damn near 2 years, which ultimately just why she just didn't want us to stay there anymore, right? And so this is a problem. This is political operatives being appointed to head of department so they can then do political favors, attack people using the building department, or attack people using, maybe the police department, right? Or in the school districts, right? There's many cases of this, many cases of this. So he needed to talk about that. What else did they talk about? Anthony Moranti and the mayor. Look, and he also could have said Mayor Mike Spano spoke a lot, but he didn't say a whole lot. And I'll tell you why. He was very vague in what he was saying, right? He said the same things that he kind of says all the time. I sensed that the mayor was a bit nervous. Maybe it's just me. I don't know. Maybe he just doesn't like to be in front of a camera, but I can see a little bit of the nervousness there. I read body language very well. And, I could tell he was not the most comfortable. But again, he says the same thing. We're building a park, over there at Ludlow. It's a waterfront park. Before that, we didn't have access to the water. I wish we had access to the water when I was a child. And, my dad said that you guys did. He was swimming in the Hudson River when he was young. I had teachers that told me they were swimming in the Sawmill River when they were young, and in the Bronx River when it was cleaner back then, right? But we always had the pier. We had the JFK Marina for a long time, right? It's just that people didn't go down there. People don't want to go down there. Just like people are not going down to the marina, really, except for the people that live there, maybe, right? And others, and it's not the best looking place now. You see a lot of garbage and debris over there by the pier and that river walk thing. So what will it look like when they build it in Ludlow? I mean, are people going to come from the northeast and southeast side just to come to that park over there in Ludlow? Probably not. Not with the way traffic is. It's going to take a half hour there, half hour back. Nobody wants to do that just to go to a park by the Hudson River. I mean, it's the Hudson River. It's not, you know, the Gulf of Mexico, right? It's not. You know, I don't see how, you know, he should have talked about that. So, you know, what's that really doing for the residents? If anything, that's just making the area more appealing, and it's part of the overall development that Ginsburg and McQuestion are all about, right? The big time donors. He should have talked about that. McQuestion was here in Yonkers. They're building that 76 unit affordable housing on Main and Riverdale, is it, or Warburton? The governor was down here. Senator Andrea Stewart Cousins, the majority leader. Nader Sage, of course, the state assemblyman. Who else? Paul Adler showed his face, right? So why not? I mean, you know, they should have took her for a tour of the schools. That's what they should have done, right? That's what they really should have done. But, you know, what's going on here? It's all about the developers, right? The governor comes down here for the developers, but won't come down here to see the conditions of the schools and give us whatever money our elected officials here say they owe us, the state, right? Senator Cousins, same thing. She's the majority leader. But yet and still, our schools are underfunded constantly. The mayor blames Albany, but who exactly in Albany, Mayor? Are we talking about the governor here? Or are we talking about Andrea Stewart Cousins? Are we talking about Shelley Mayer? Are we talking about Nader Sage? Who, Mayor? When we talk about the lack of funding for the schools, he always says Albany. But who in Albany? Is Albany just its own entity, the city itself, and the city is just not releasing it? Or is it the governor up in Albany? Or is it our majority leader, Andrea Stewart Cousins? Or is it our education chair, Senator Shelley Mayer? Which one, Mayor? Which one of the individuals? Or all of them? Are they all refusing to give us the money? But you guys are all smiles and buddy with Albany, it seems. So why is Albany holding our money? Why is Albany not giving us our fair share? Or is that just a bunch of fluff? Because there was a time, and I have the audio and video, I should say, of when the state did give us money, right? According to Mayor Spano, when he first ran for mayor, he was getting us the money that we needed in Yonkers. It's not Albany that was the problem. It was a issue of mismanagement of that money by city officials. But that has changed since 2012. Now it's all about Albany not giving us our fair share. And so Anthony Moranti should have drove that point home also. I wish I was there, Anthony. I wish I was in your shoes for one moment, because I would have just said, hey, this doesn't make sense. What about the jobs? And like Anthony Moranti said, he should have really stung that, really hammered that point, right? In terms of jobs, who are the people actually getting jobs here? We're not denying that jobs have not been created. Sure, we see them, a bunch of construction jobs, right? But who are the people getting those jobs? Because they were promised to the people of Yonkers, not to people of Connecticut or Jersey or Pennsylvania. But that's who we see coming into Yonkers. Either they're driving themselves in, or they're coming on the back of trucks, and I've seen this and put video of it, or they're coming in vans into Yonkers to come and work. It's not the people of Yonkers. And so he should have drove that point home, that we are either being lied to or something is not, going the way it was planned. What's going on here, right? Where are the studio jobs? 22 movie studios. Think about this, folks. Where are those 22 movie studios going to be located, and how much traffic is that going to bring to the city of Yonkers? Not just the people that live here, but trucks coming in and out, bringing in equipment and other things. They don't have to live here to come in here and utilize the facilities, right? So that's more traffic. What impact is that going to have for you and I? What exactly? And Moranti should have asked that question, Mayor. What impacts? Because taxes have gone up, cost of living has gone up, people are getting pushed out of the city of Yonkers, crime is up, the infrastructure, as we've seen today, once again, is definitely not up to par. We can't handle any rain, really heavy rains, because everyone's getting all flooded. Schools as well. My son was telling me, water's coming into the building, Daddy, at school today. That's right. Shanae Williams told us that the roofs were falling down at our public schools, right? He's afraid since he can't control Moranti. They also don't respond to FOIA requests. Spano tried to inflate the percentage of affordable housing by saying it was more than 10. Yeah, well, what he's saying is that with the help of nonprofits like West Hab and the IDA and other, initiatives, housing initiatives, right, that the affordable housing ordinance, it's really more like at, I think like 22%, he said, right? It's like 22%, not at 10, because even though the developers are required to have at least 10%, which that's not true also. See, this is another thing that Moranti didn't mention. So how many of these developers are actually adhering to the 10% ordinance instead of just putting money into the Affordable Housing Trust Fund? That's an option. They can say, you know what? We don't want to put any affordable housing units in our buildings. How much does it cost to build that unit? Takes us 800,000. Okay, or let's say 200,000. Okay, well, they have to put 200,000 for every affordable unit they're supposed to put in there, and they don't, into an affordable housing trust fund, which then that money is supposed to be used to build affordable housing somewhere else. What's going on with that? Who manages and oversees that? Well, I spoke about that in previous podcasts. Where's the money actually going? Guess where? Into investors' pockets. That's right. Because now investors have, can make a claim to some of that money if they need to renovate a property that they've purchased, as long as that they're going to keep the apartments affordable. Right? So all these, vultures that are coming into Yonkers and preying on the old folks that own these homes that now can't afford the taxes that are going up, that can't deal with all the traffic and the craziness that's going on and ready to get up out of here. They're buying up their homes, or the, minorities, some who don't speak English, but manage to buy themselves a property. And now we're forced to sell for below market rate, and then getting half the money up front and the other half mortgaged to them. So it's preventing them from buying another home because they're not even able to buy another home. They're not even able to put a down payment on new homes because the money they're being given is just not enough. Imagine you have a property and they force you to sell it at below market rate. So let's say it's worth 500,000, but they force you to sell at 4, maybe 350. Then they give you half up front. Houses are going up in pricing. I'm seeing $1 million homes on the south side of Yonkers. Seeing $1 million home is not uncommon now here in Yonkers. That was Scarsdale prices. Now we're Scarsdale. So it's becoming a lot more difficult for those who even work and have decent pay. So even if you work in the schools, let's say, or you have a business and you earn 250,000 a year, or you're, in the schools making 150, 200,000 a year, right? You still have to go outside of Yonkers, go up to Yorktown or Somers or somewhere like that, right? Because the cost of living here is just too much. It's just way too much. You're going to pay $1 million for a home. Some of them do it. I know a lot of our, officials, elected officials and stuff, they manage to do it, but they also have side hustles, properties that they bought early on. They were early adopters of this whole revitalization, right? They were early investors. Somehow they knew which properties to buy up early. Right? That guy Maui said he owns buildings. Good question. West Hab is part of the problem. West Hab is connected to the city of Yonkers, and they're just getting a lot of grant funding and all that stuff. And then they're hooking up with Macy, Municipal Housing Authority of City of Yonkers, to get people in there with vouchers. And then they're filtering out certain people. They're weeding people out. They're only taking the ones that they want. They're looking at past, rental history. They're looking at your credit. Even they're even asking you to pay now, different fees now. They're just trying to get certain people out and certain people in, right? Because these are all going private. All these affordable housing, public housing, they're going private. They're being eaten up. And they're doing that now, folks. We have short-term memory as humans, right? We have so much going on in our lives that this right here, we're going to forget about after probably the podcast goes off or some, right? And they bank on that. So they'll do this now, make it look good. Oh, yes, for affordable housing. Yeah, we're giving the vouchers. We got the lottery. 5 years from now, even 10 years from now, it's going to change. Those people are going to be gone, and they're going to probably go market rate. They're going to find a way to go market rate, and that's what they do. They have two companies, these, investors that are involved in our city as well, right? They'll have a nonprofit company and they'll have a for-profit company. The nonprofit company is what they utilize first to acquire the property that was once an affordable city-owned property, and now they're acquiring it using grants and other funding, tax breaks, and all that types of incentives, financial incentives, right? To get the property. They got hookups with the politicians, so they're going to get, every single tax break benefit, they can get, state as well and federal. And now they're going to get the vouchers from the municipal housing or Mulford Corporation, right, to get the tenants. So they're guaranteed this. And that's how they float for 5 years, maybe a little longer. Then they take their for-profit company and purchase it from the nonprofit company when they start saying we can't maintain it anymore. We're struggling. The for-profit just doesn't have any money, and we have to sell it to a for-profit company that knows how to manage these buildings and that can make sure that they're maintaining the buildings properly for the health and safety of the tenants. But when that happens, they're just selling it to themselves, and then the rent goes up. That's the scam. I know it might go over some people's heads, and I'm kind of giving a quick synopsis of it, but that's the scam these people are running here. It's a few developers running this scam, right? And then you got all the little, like the whale with the little fish that feed off, the whale's leftovers. You have all those guys all around, right? And ultimately the people suffer. The people who are, living in that area, people who are, working class, living at or below the poverty line, they suffer. That's what's going on here. It's a great transition of the city of Yonkers into this Hollywood on the Hudson. It happened in Beverly Hills, believe it or not. I mean, in Hollywood, that area wasn't always fancy schmancy, right? But people came in, the movie industry came in, and and it took over. That's what's going to happen. Definitely, West Hab is just a facade of good. In reality, in bed with Spanner. Well, I know for a fact, or maybe it wasn't a fact. Maybe it was a trick. But the woman who sent me that video when they tried to set me up at Macy with the two students, she was living in a West Hab building and got kicked out of it during the pandemic, a single mom with two kids who had special needs. So I don't know if West Hab is that great. Rich Nightingale's the guy that owns it. It's passed down to him, you know what I mean? And this is a family, that's their business. That's how they make money. It's just another form of being a landlord. It's just another way, it's kind of like in my business when I deal with property insurance and I do the repairs and stuff. The client is not paying me, right? It's the insurance company with money. And I'm not trying to diss nobody, but a lot of people nowadays just don't have the money to do these major repairs if they had to do them on their own. I mean, we're talking $300,000, $400,000, $600,000, $700,000, jobs. So, the insurance company pays. So we know we good. That's why I put the money, right? I put the money up front to get the job going, pay the architect. That's $8,000-$10,000 right there, right? And so, that's what ultimately this is in real estate, right? You got the government paying, right? They're subsidizing most of it. You can acquire the properties with all kinds of grants and subsidies and tax breaks, especially if you link up with the politicians. It's a great hustle. It's a great hustle. I mean, I can't be mad. I can't knock it, but I got to at least be honest with you guys and let you know what's going on. But I can't knock it. It's as a business guy, I mean, it's a great hustle. I mean, it's a great hustle. And then if you're in bed with the politicians, you don't have to worry about keeping the apartments up to par, right? And you still get your money. Right? People are living in poor conditions. They're not doing the proper inspections. Landlords still get paid. and people have to live in, with mold and water damage and all that kinds of crazy stuff. Like I said, I see that in Crestwood Apartments over there. Flooded pretty bad, folks out there. A lot of cars were stuck. I see a lot of tow trucks out there removing vehicles from parking lots and other places. Some cars just left in the middle of the road. I'll be putting up pictures. I was driving around a little bit. Bronx River Parkway, I should say, closed, and forcing a lot of people to go on 87, then getting off on Central Avenue or at Central Avenue exit, driving down Central Avenue or north to go back onto the Bronx River North, just created a crazy backup on Central Avenue up until that entrance there at the Bronx River. So once I was past that, it was like wide open, Tuckahoe wide open. But apparently the Bronx River being closed at certain points, and maybe even the Hutch, forced a lot of people to have to find alternate routes, which unfortunately that led them through local streets here in the city of Yonkers. It took me 2 hours just to go pick my wife up and get back. 2 hours. It's crazy. I don't know why we have to go through this every time. I don't get it. If we do it a few times, shouldn't we figure out a plan that we can stop this from happening? I get it. It rained quickly. We didn't expect it. But when we get it, it should drain quickly, right? We should have found a system in the event this happens, because a lot of property was damaged. Cars, houses, schools were leaking, right? I mean, the schools should have closed a lot sooner. We have to be more consciously aware that after that incident where kids were on buses for 2 and 3 hours when it snowed that one time and they couldn't get home. Think about the young kids on these buses and what they have to go through, and buses that have to, that arrive late at schools to pick up the kids, forcing people to have to stay even later and stuff like that when they wanted to get home, and it's not really productive, right? Because a lot of the staff members, and I know I used to work in the schools, we're like, are we going to go? It's raining out there. Yeah. They start making calls and everybody's listening to the news, and then they all just talking to each other. The students are not the focus anyway, right? So they all like, oh, the Bronx River, this, that, and third, how are you going to get home? And people just start getting mad because they know now they're going to have an hour, 2 hour drive when it should only take 20 minutes, 30 minutes. They have an hour drive, it's going to be 3 hours. You know what I mean? So it's not productive. It makes things unsafe for the staff and especially for the students. So maybe there should be some, system set in place for potential weather like this. Listen, if it doesn't come, it doesn't come, but at least we didn't have to go through it. That also clears the street of a lot more traffic when you don't have the buses, coming at the same time that people are getting off work, right? So it's just a big problem that we need to think about when we have this kind of weather at the public schools. And I just want to mention that because some parents were upset that they didn't close schools sooner. Staff members were upset that they didn't close schools sooner. And again, it's not a productive day. It presents a big danger, and you're more likely to see accidents happen, which I saw, we got to witness today, just trying to get off the sawmill, but we don't want accidents happening with students and the buses, right? Which we've seen happen also in times like this. So, we need our elected officials to be focused, to be paying attention, to be aware of what's happening. That's real leadership, right? That would have been my first thought this morning, waking up. It was my first thought with the daycare and the after school program. What are we going to do? So we ended up canceling our after school programming today. And we, called our daycare home early once we started, rain, because we care about our kids. We care about the people's safety, and we want to make sure, our staff members get home as well. They have to make it home safe too. And so you have to consider these things. We need real leadership here in the city of Yonkers. We need effective leadership in the city of Yonkers. And we have to come out and vote this year, folks. I'm Freddie Vasquez. This is Basement Politics. Thank you for joining me. Make sure you share the show. I keep it real here. Listen, I may not always show the like evidence, but believe me, 99%. All right. They say 98%. That's what I hear. 98% of the time I'm going to be right. Okay. And if I do get it wrong, those 2% is not intentional, right? But it's just maybe I'm missing certain information. Government checks are the most consistent and reliable. That's how they get private contractors like the IMA clinic to sell the city fake reports at low prices in exchange for a contract. Yeah, especially nowadays, you want contracts, right? Everybody hurting for money. So if you can get government contracts, you can get, those official contracts like that, I guess, even not just government, but, you're dealing with insurance companies that pay out, unless they go under, they can always pay. It's a great and lucrative business, although it can be some, delays in getting payment and stuff like that. Or maybe that was just me they were trying to screw around with, right? But it definitely is lucrative, right? And so you see a lot of these developers like McQuestion, they fight for these contracts, right? Or they fight to be able to, get the opportunity to buy a piece of property or get that property for cheap or free, right? And be able to do their development. They have to go through the planning board and they have to go to the zoning board. And so they need the yeses from these people, right? And who controls that? I mean, you know what I mean? You have, again, husband and wife team at the head of the planning and zoning board. I mean, even to forget the Spanos, just those two alone, if they wanted to, could really, lock things down and make a lot of money on the side. Listen, write a check to this company over here that I have that nobody knows about, and then, we'll get your project approved. And then you write another check to this other company that I have over here and that nobody knows about, and then I'll make sure that the zoning laws are changed for you so you can go ahead and go as high as you want. Right? And they play ball, right? And if you're a politician, what do you do? I got a fundraiser coming up. If you donate, 5,000, 7,500, what do you think that money is for? Why would people that don't live in Yonkers spend so much money on donations to elected officials from Yonkers? What other reason, right? So that's just, come on. We got to use that common sense. It's no bueno. It's no good. We got to say, developers, do not be giving any of these people money. Committee for a Better Yonkers. You ain't for a better Yonkers. You ain't no committee. Roseanne, you and your husband should just leave Yonkers. You guys are destroying us over here. Your husband is not doing his thing on the board of ethics or the ethics board. You over here creating these committees that are, funneling money, Roseanne. Did you know that? You probably don't even know the extent of it, right? And it's sad because you be the one that go down for it, just like that lady back in the 80s, or was it the 90s, that took the fall? No, it was the late 80s that took the fall for the money that was being embezzled out of the Yonkers IDA, right? They blamed the secretary. This was not, this was a little bit before Mayor Nicholas Wasisco was killed, because he was actually working with the FBI to investigate what was going on in the IDA. But once he was killed, they had nobody else. They ended up pinning it on a secretary who I believe still works for the city of Yonkers. I don't know if she, I got to go back, but she might have been that chick that was stealing money at Murray's also. It's crazy, but that's what they do, right? That's what they do. They embezzle money through all that stuff. So Roseanne, you got to be easy with that. I hate for you to be like that secretary who took the fall, although, they also got judges and lawyers, so maybe you won't serve much time. I mean, look at Ruros. He was charged with abusing an underage girl, and he was facing 7 to 10 years. And then he hired, I want to say this, and again, I could be 98% correct, a Sage attorney who got him probation and a reduced charge. But the girl ran home crying. She was crying on the stand. There's no way he should have only got probation. If you're facing 7 to 14 years for sexually abusing an underage girl and you get probation, okay, he had to go to drug counseling also and had an order of protection, but still, he should have served time. But he had a certain attorney who's very well connected to this day. Why do you think Ruros is so protected by them? He's a pedophile and they protect this guy, they even don't want me talking about him, but he's a pedophile. I can't. He should have never came at me. And that's what happens here in the city of Yonkers. And this is why we got to be careful who the judges are that are appointed, and also who are the judges that are elected, right? It's a lot of times the person that was appointed to take someone else's spot, because that's how they do it. They're always doing this, leapfrog thing, right? There's one guy that he gets moved up, so now there's an opening. They get appointed. They appoint the one person that they want to win in the election. So once they're appointed, people become familiar with them, so it's easier to win. It's a higher probability. It's all a game. It's all a hustle. Folks, check out the recent minutes of the Board of Ethics meeting. Haven't had a meeting in a long time, but they get together and it's important. Why? Because they're discussing the allegations of nepotism and, the request from the New York State Comptroller on the administration's hiring practices. Interesting. But They're acting like little kids who don't know what to do. What should we do? I don't know. We should be getting a report from Liam McLaughlin. Yeah, absolutely. Board of Ethics. The New York State Comptroller has asked you to look into the hiring practices. That is your job. And what do? You're referred to the Inspector General. But guess what? He's Liam McLaughlin. We know ain't no investigation gonna go down unless you're a minority. That guy only targets minorities, blacks, Hispanics, and Arabics. Or people from the Arabic community. He doesn't target, anyone else outside of that, has he? No. The apple doesn't fall too far from the tree. I'm sure if he had it his way, he, like his mom, would still have housing in the schools segregated. What a pick. And Mike Cater, you screwed up on that one. You didn't have foresight. You didn't see ahead. You should have known that could come back. See, I would have never agreed to the appointment, because in the event that something down the line goes awry, right? I don't want them to say, well, you were part of appointing him. You look at right here. You thought he was good enough. You should have thought about that, dog. I would have never been okay with no, just in case not. I don't trust this guy. He's my arch nemesis, right? But you did. You played the game. That's how they got you. That's how they did that on purpose, right? They won. So that way you can say, well, Mike Cater also thought he was a good. He okayed it. He voted yes on the appointment, right? But the Board of Ethics with this Dennis Gallegio and his wife Roseanne, that's already, I know, no bueno. I can't trust it. I mean, they're being asked by the New York State Comptroller to look into the hiring practices by the city of Yonkers, specifically that of the administration and the mayor. They're also discussing the nepotism allegations and the allegations that were brought to the Westchester District Attorney by Indivisible 16. And by the way, Indivisible, I know you guys are Republicans, but you guys should really be helping Jose Diaz out. Eileen O'Connor, it would be wise of you to help Jose Diaz out. I'm just saying, I'm trying to help you guys play chess, but I can't play every game for you guys. You guys got to do it, right? You got to make the moves. And at least when I tell you, do the move. I'm telling you, Jose Diaz is a guy you and your people should be making phone calls for. They're coming for you. They're coming for your ward. You know it. You know it. And I know you think you're powerful because you got Indivisible 16, but it would be a better play to also support Jose Diaz and ensure that he gets elected over Jose Alvarado. You want to be a player and remain one? You got to play the game right, Eileen. That's what you should be doing. That's what I would be doing if I were you. I'm just saying. All right. So anyway, we'll see if they're going to do anything about it. The Board of Ethics, not too ethical. Will they do their job? But they're trying to sweep it on the rug. They're trying to delay it. They're trying to push it off onto somebody else. I posted the transcripts a while back. If I get them back, I'll repost them so you can check it out. But that's important. That is huge. Let's see what they do. Let's see what Liam does. Liam is supposed to investigate this, but will he? Will Mr. Carrot Top, as they call him, investigate? True redneck.
I was raised in housing. I don't think you were.
Politics Unfiltered. Make sure you tell a friend to tell a friend. There's a new sheriff in town. He goes by the name of Freddie Vasquez. I'm ready to kick ass and take names. I don't know what you guys trying to do, but that's what I'm trying to do. You got my back, I got yours. I got the signs ready. Let's go. Rally or change. Rally to end corruption. I'll lead the charge, but I need an army behind me. You know, can't go into war without an army. And you, the people, are my army, right? And I need your support. A good general is only as good as his army, and the army is only as good as their general. You know, we need each other, folks. I'm Freddie Vasquez, Basement Politics. Make sure you come out this November and vote. Vote, 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 vote. Don't be scared to vote anymore. Tide is turning. Tide is turning. And I think by now we should know that when you stand up, while you may get targeted, if you're consistently, you know, in their face, and you do not back down, eventually start to see the cracks. Right? Let's keep at it. I'm Freddie Vasquez, Basement Politics Unfiltered. I love you folks. Have a beautiful weekend. Peace out.